You here.
Quite a room.
Yeah. Oh, there's all students? Oh, they're looking for their easy ones.
Either the easy one or street sweeping. I don't know which.
Oh, all the ones that got tickets. That's gonna be my first question. Have you received the tickets? Make our lives easy.
Okay. Good evening. We are reconvening to open session. From closed session, may I get a roll call, please?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Here.
Councilmember Narenheim.
Here.
Councilmember Kolujetovich.
Here.
Councilmember Obaji.
Here.
Councilmember Barrett.
Here.
Mayor Brand is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Lowenstein.
Great, thank you. Can I get any announcements from closed session, please?
Yes, we do have one under item F2, the case listed in that section. The City Council unanimously authorized the city attorney to defend the city in the matter. And I believe we will be coming back after the open session meeting to discuss item F1, which will become item R1.
Okay, we are adjourning to a regular meeting of the Redondo Beach City Council. Today is January
publicly congratulate Councilmember Koloderovich for her appointment to that Blue Ribbon Panel on Homelessness. Thank you for doing that. I think we all know you'll do a terrific job representing Redondo Beach.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I just have a couple announcements. One is it's great to see so many young people here. You've renewed my faith in democracy, so thank you for being here. I assume there is a class that's attached to this as well, too.
Or a reason.
Or a reason for that. The second thing is I want to thank Public Safety, Police and Fire to responding to that very tragic accident last week that happened at the corner of Carnelian and PCH. So thank you all. Very tough situation. And then finally, District 2 will be having its community meeting Monday, the 22nd of January on Zoom, 6 to 7:30. You can register at redondo.org under District 2, and I will be joined by City Manager Witzansky, who will be giving you a summary of what happened in 2023 and the exciting things that are happening in 2024. So with that, Can I get a motion and a second for approval of tonight's agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Can I make a
Sure,
is
feel
this
free
the
to.
approval of the order?
Sure.
Could we move up the referral? Let's see, that's P1. Could we move that up in front of, substitute motion, move that up front of item N1?
Second.
Second, okay. Anybody?
And if we could request the staff as well, the deferral of item H7 until either the next meeting or the one following.
Okay. Okay, so again, moving up P1 in front of N1 and N2. That's the motion and second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed to that? Okay. We have an agency recess special meeting, a successor agency, the Community Finance Authority. Can I get a roll call, please?
Member Narenheim?
Here.
Member Kolujetovich?
Here.
Member Obaji?
Here.
Member Barrett?
Here.
Chair Member Brand is absent, and Vice Chair Member Lowenstein.
Thank you. Here. Can I get a approval of the order of agenda for tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Any opposed? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Any blue folder items for the successor agency meeting?
There are none.
Okay. We will now go to consent calendar. This is for the Finance Authority successor agency, the former redevelopment agency. We will pass all these items at once unless anybody in the public or who are members of the agency would like to pull any of these items. Would there be anybody on the public who'd like to pull any of these items on the consent calendar? Okay, Councilmember Narenheim, do you have any that you'd like to pull?
We do have one hand raised on Zoom currently, so I don't know if it's to pull an item or not.
Okay.
I do not.
Okay, Councilmember Kalojevic.
None.
Okay, Councilmember Obaji
No, thank you.
and Councilmember Barrett.
No.
Okay, then can I get a motion for approval of items C1 through C4, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, anyone opposed? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay.
Okay, you need to read
then
ordinance. We need
Please
to read
read item
ordinance.
C4. Thank you.
Thank you. It's to adopt by title only, resolution number SA 2401-01, a resolution of the successor agency to the former redevelopment agency of the city of Redondo Beach, California, approving and adopting a recognized obligation payment schedule pursuant to California Health and Safety Code, section 34177I.
Thank you so much. Now we're on to public participation on non-agenda items. Again, this is your chance to speak in front of the council on anything that is not on this agenda this evening or on the other agenda, I believe. I don't believe you can talk to either of them. But if you'd like to speak to anything, you have 3 minutes to speak. And anybody who would like to speak can come up to the podium and speak to an item. They can do it for anything, correct?
Yeah. Successor agency.
For the successor.
This is for the successor agency at this time, and we have none on Zoom either.
Okay.
You can speak anyways.
Not yet.
Okay, great. All right. Being that there's no one willing to speak, does anybody have any referrals to staff? Okay, then can I get a motion then to adjourn to regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, we are now back in open session of the Redondo Beach City Council. May I get a roll call, please?
Thank you. Councilmember Narenheim?
Here.
Councilmember Kolujetovich?
Here.
Councilmember Obaji?
Here.
Councilmember Barrett?
Here.
Mayor Brand is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Lowenstein.
Here, thank you. Do we have any blue folder items for tonight's meeting?
Yes, we do. We have 2 items. The first one is related to item J1, public participation on non-agenda items. We had public communications that were added, as well as to agenda item N1, discussion and possible action for proposed changes to street sweeping hours along the southerly side of Diamond Street between Pacific Coast Highway and Del Amo Street. There were also public communications related to that item. That concludes the blue items.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve admitting this to the record, blue folder items?
Yes. So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, we're now on to consent calendar items. Again, these are items that we pass in one fell swoop unless somebody would like to pull one of these items. These are consent calendar items. I will go to the council first and ask if they'd like to pull any items. Councilmember Marenheim.
I do not need to pull anything, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Kaljarovich.
None, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Obaji.
None, thank you.
Councilmember Barrett.
None.
Okay, and I have none. Does anybody in the public would like to pull any of the items on the consent calendar? Anybody on Zoom?
No, we do not have anyone on Zoom.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for consent calendar items H1 through H6. Somebody like to make a motion to approve those items?
Motion approved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, we are now on to the public participation on non-agenda items. Again, this is your chance. Is there anybody?
I'm sorry, we had a title to read for consent calendar. Item H6, we need to read that into the
Okay,
record.
got it, sure.
That is to adopt by title only Resolution Number CC 2401-002, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Redondo Beach, California, amending the official book of class specifications to update the position of Waterfront and Economic Development Manager. That concludes the reading.
Thank you very much. Okay. We are now on to public participation on non-agenda items. Again, this is your chance to speak in front of the council for up to 3 minutes on any item that is not listed for discussion on tonight's agenda. It is now 6:16. We hold this to 30 minutes. We'll start first with these orange cards. And then beyond that, anybody that would like to speak to non-agenda items can come up to the podium and speak to the council for up to 3 minutes. Again, non-agenda items, these are items that are not discussed this evening on the agenda otherwise. So the first person I have is Gregory McGinty. And after Gregory McGinty is Holly Osborne. And you can raise the height of the podium if you'd like. There's a switch there.
Board members, my name is Gregory McGinnity, and I've been a resident of Redondo Beach for almost 20 years. I'm here to speak to you about the decision you will be making regarding a tax on cannabis sales in Redondo Beach. I'm here to urge you to tax cannabis at the maximum rate allowed by the voters of Redondo Beach. The tax should be set at 9%. Legalization efforts have made cannabis more readily available in much of the nation, including in California and Redondo Beach. The research on cannabis is clear. Cannabis is a severe threat to the public health. For example, according to doctors and recent research, we know that more frequent use of marijuana that is many times more potent than strains commonly found 3 or 4 decades ago is leading to more psychotic episodes. Rates for diagnoses for cannabis-induced disorders were more than 50% higher at the end of November 2023 than they were in 2019. This horrifying trend is contributing to the broader burden of caring for people who develop serious mental health and addiction problems during the pandemic. According to Dr. Deepak D'Souza, a professor of psychiatry at the Yale University School of Medicine, a number of large-scale studies have shown a clear link between frequent and more potent cannabis use and higher rates of psychosis. In 2017, in the American Journal of Psychiatry, it reported that one psychotic episode following cannabis use was associated with a 47% chance of a person developing schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, circumstances that often lead to homelessness. As the Wall Street Journal recently reported, doctors at Boston Children's Hospital are treating more children developing psychotic disorders from cannabis use. Nearly a third of adolescents they see for checkups say they are using cannabis, and a third of children using cannabis report experiencing hallucinations or paranoia. From my perspective, it is not a coincidence the drastic rise in homelessness, much of which is caused by mental health issues, occurred at the same time we as a state legalized cannabis. Unfortunately, due to the recent approval of the local initiative to allow for the sale of cannabis in Redondo Beach, we will see an increase in cannabis use among both adults and children in our community. As a result, we are likely to see an increase in criminal activity, homelessness, and other severe mental health challenges in Redondo Beach. We will not know the number of children that will be irreparably harmed in the coming years by the use of cannabis, but we do know that there will be many in our community. While the City Council cannot do anything about the results of the initiative, you can take steps to discourage cannabis use in our city. You can do this principally by using the powers the voters gave you and taxing cannabis at the maximum level. When the resolution on the issue returns to you in March, I would strongly encourage you to tax cannabis at 9%. Thank you for your time and consideration of my views.
Thank you. Okay, Holly Osborne is next, and after Holly is Nikki Negretti Mitchell.
Ms. Osborne, do you need a presenter up there? Maybe just,
Yeah, you can bring it up.
Madam Clerk, could you 1A, please?
Okay. Good evening. This is Holly Osborne, District 5. I've lived here 45 years. Last week, I told you about a derailment in El Segundo that happened on the BNSF freight line almost exactly 7 years ago. You recall I showed pictures of 4 derailed fuel tankers on their sides and showed how far one of the tanker cars had fallen from the center track, about 23 feet. Actually, some of these cars did not derail. The wheels stayed on the tracks. It was the carriage that was ripped from the tankers, and the tankers rolled off without their wheels. I also mentioned there was another derailment that occurred in Carson in 2018, and this one was due to excessive speed on a curve. Okay, I updated my cartoon maps between Artesia and Grant. The original one, which is up there, shows that the freight train as it currently is on an absolutely straight track between Artesia and Grant, and it's actually straight between 162nd and Lawndale and 182nd and Redondo. The second slide, the proposed project, shows where the freight train would curve, okay, and get 25 feet to the condos closest to Grant. I have updated my cartoon train to pulling tanker cars, okay? The diameter of the tanks is about 10 feet. I have drawn one that has derailed, and the top part is now 23 feet from the tracks, and that would just about touch the condo wall, all right? So this is just one bad part of going through the row. You know, the other alternative is Hawthorne. The proposed project has numerous problems, and the curve introduced in the freight track and moving closer to the residence is just one. Now, I want to bring your attention to something else. The top part of the map is where the LRT lines would be. The map part also shows that it's green, and that's because it's grass and shrub there because it's a steep embankment, okay? In order to get the row, the full width of the row, you'd have to fill in the embankment, and there are houses at the bottom of the embankment. And as the plan is that as the embankment would be filled in, the LRT would be on top of it, and a huge retaining wall would be put in these people's backyards, making their life hell. I walked the row yesterday, and some maintenance work had been done on top of the embankment. It erodes all the time, and some sort of bluestone semi-pavement had been put down to stop it. And I don't know which entity made these repairs, the city or Metro, but I can assure you that this part of the road was not on the tour that Holly Mitchell led 1 month ago. It is a little tough to get to, but I hope you representatives figure out how to do it. If you can't, I'll show you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Nikki Negretti Mitchell is next, and after Nikki, anybody else who'd like to speak to the council?
Hi, good evening. Nikki Negretti Mitchell, District 3. I've lived here for 43 years. To add to Holly's comments where she ends at 182nd Street, it's also really important to look south of 182nd, which has been my contention for the past 3 years, as you know. And since I got Metro to finally acknowledge us by coming to our neighborhood on the right-of-way west for a public walk in spring of 2022, I felt satisfied that we were sufficiently being considered. Until the draft EIR came out and I discovered we were left out of sound and vibration studies. So I'm back to the push for acknowledgement. In the context that Holly was discussing the reality of derailments, firstly, the curve at the south end of El Nido is roughly about 45 degrees. Oops. There has been a derailment there back in 1988. I saw articles that have recently been removed from the internet. My neighbor Doug had just moved there and was aware of it. At that point, south of El Nido, the rail is on a 20-foot high berm towering over residential rooftops. At that location, the right-of-way route is set, of the right-of-way route, the track is set to be moved 12 feet closer to those homes with no retaining wall, which would bring the track less than the 23 feet that a tipped-over freight car would occupy. But keep in mind that the rolled-over freight car would be 20 feet above those rooftops on a steep berm, so they wouldn't just sit neatly in that space next to the track if it falls to the west. If there is a commuter train just a few feet away in the same corridor and the freight falls to the east, it puts those passengers at risk, and the commuter services will be halted. Since that freight is highly pressurized petroleum gas above the 7 gas pipelines that run along that section of the right-of-way, that puts everybody in the vicinity at grave risk. To be dismissive of that would be wildly inconceivable. We cannot allow anyone to do that to us. Number 2, our Holly mentioned the freight track would be 25 feet from Redondo homes. That's between Artesia and 182nd only. You can see why, anyway, it would be less than 20 feet or even less than 15 feet at some spots in Lawndale and south of 182nd Street. So you can see why we're so concerned about that. The Metro Board of Directors have decided as of June 23, 2022, that since mistakes have been made over the years that have eroded communities and their trust in corporate and governmental policies, and they are actively seeking to repair what they can by proactively making better decisions moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joan Irvine, District 1. I wanted to come and talk to you about cannabis education. I had the honor of speaking today at the pharmacy dispensary down in Santa Ana. This dispensary was in Anderson Cooper's The Whole Story on CNN, and it was Weed, a Senior Moment, and it aired on August 9th, 2023. I spoke to a group of seniors, and I talked about cannabis. I talked about how many people, including myself, use cannabis during dry January to stop drinking alcohol, and I haven't been drinking for 2.5 years. And we know that cannabis is a lot less harmful to you than alcohol. More and more is coming out about alcohol. So I think it's important for people to, realize that. So I was there speaking, and it was great. Also, while I was there, I was really amazed. I was happy because they had this guide to cannabis. So I wanted to receive and file because it really is about education. And it talks about cannabis, the different kinds, the cannabinoids, etc. So if I can receive and file.
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed?
As I mentioned last time, with Bill 1186, where medical cannabis can be delivered into Redondo effective January 1st of this year. And I will be, I'm working on getting venues and putting together education for people about medical cannabis. So I am working on that. Also, one of the things that I don't have the data right here, but one of the things that has come out this year, well, it's been coming out, and also it's coming out more and more from different states, is when you legalize cannabis, youth use actually goes down, because it's the illegal market that sells to children. It is not the legal market. So that if you actually take a look at it, and I'll bring the studies in another time, or I'll get them to you, that it actually does go down. So it's about education, and it's important that we keep it affordable because a lot of seniors use it, and you can't tax it to the max because then you're getting, the seniors, you can't tax, or you shouldn't tax medical cannabis. So I hope that you don't do that, so that seniors and other people who use cannabis for health issues, don't go without it because of the taxes. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak in front of the council on non-agenda items? How about on Zoom?
We do not have anyone on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then we're going to move on. As we talked about at the beginning of the meeting, we're going to move item P1 in front of N1 and N2. So P1 is discussion and possible action to appoint an alternate as an official representative of the city to serve on the South Bay City's Council of Governments, or COG. Ms. Manzano?
Yes, so we were to bring back regarding South Bay COGS and regarding to change the alternate. I think maybe Councilmember Parent to speak on this.
Okay, sure. Or was it Obaji?
Obaji.
It's my motion.
Sure.
All right, so first, on the South Bay COG, I'd like to thank Councilmember Barrett for his work on the COG. When I have not been able to go every single time, he has been able to attend as an alternate. He's been a great alternate. But the issue has arisen where the COG has alas decided to take a position or declare that it's not going to take a position, discuss, and vote on, the directors are going to vote on whether to support an alignment of the Metro C line extension. And that discussion is going to take place on January 25th, Thursday at 6 p.m. And I'm unable to attend because I took a vacation, scheduled a vacation that week, thinking that we wouldn't have council and didn't expect that Metro would be discussed then. Councilmember Barrett has, out of an abundance of caution, not due to any conflict, recused himself from the Metro discussion because his firm has represented Metro and represents Metro. And so we need an alternate who can discuss Metro and represent the city's almost unanimous position on the C line extension down Hawthorne Boulevard at the January 25th meeting. I've inquired with Councilmember Kalajerovich, who's been a super strong advocate for going down Hawthorne Boulevard for the city, as to her availability, and I've understood that she's going to be in councilmember training, new councilmember training with Cal Cities on that date, so will not be present in person. So I'd inquire if either Councilmember Lowenstein or Councilmember Nierenheim could take up the alternate position until the Metro issue has been resolved at the COG, and then Councilmember Barrett can reassume his alternate position.
I mean, I'm open that I had something that I had, but it's no longer there, so I could do it.
It's really up to you. I'm glad to do it as well too, but if that's something that you're amenable to, that's fine with me. So it's really up to you.
Which one he wants to do?
I'll do it.
All right. And what I'd say is to all the council members is it would be great if every person who could call in, I intend to be at sea and won't have reception, but everybody can call in and speak as a member of the public as a non-director. So if all of us could call in, that would be great. All members of the public call in and advocate for the Hawthorne alignment. That would be fantastic. But I'd then make a motion to appoint Councilmember Nierenheim as the COG alternate in place of Councilmember Barrett.
Okay, I'll second that. Okay, anybody have any comments? Anybody in the public would like to speak to this item?
I do not have anyone on Zoom, but we do have some orange cards.
Okay, I have two cards here, Nikki Negrete Mitchell, and then after Nikki is Kevin Mitchell.
Hi, Nikki Negrete Mitchell, District 3 again. Yeah, I strongly support appointing an alternate to speak about Metro, and Nils Nierenheim would do a fantastic job. But it's very important that I publicly thank Councilmember Obaji for consistently speaking up on our behalf on the topic of the Metro C line. Councilmember Obaji stood up on numerous occasions to strongly advocate not only for our position on alignment, but for the integrity of our communities and humanity as residents. He made several motions for the COG to agendize open discussions so that all members can come to a vote, and the COG responded by canceling meetings, resisting the topic, and then finally claiming neutrality. To say this was also disappointing would be an understatement. We've seen the South Bay COG become fodder among the transit advocate community And this is because literally all other COGs in the LA basin have been working with the Metro Board of Directors regarding projects that cut through their jurisdictions. It is expected, as is written into the multimodal objectives report I sent you last week. Councilmember Obagi set in motion, with the help of Councilmember Kaloderovich, a letter to COG delegates to stimulate open-mindedness and respectfully asking for support. And major kudos to the city of Hawthorne for being so bold in announcing their enthusiastic support of the Hawthorne elevated alignment in response to that letter. I'm not sure if there have been others, since there was still much reluctance to even utter a peep about it. Finally, after months and months of avoidance and ignoring us on the COG's part, Councilmember Obagi was able to spark a discussion where other city reps finally agreed that the Sea Line topic needs to happen because, after all, it is the biggest infrastructure project to come through the South Bay in our lifetime. It took a lot of persistence and dedication, but the long-awaited discussion and vote is finally scheduled to take place a week from this Thursday on the 25th. We need someone to jump in and handle this for us. Thank goodness we're all aligned, and thanks again to Zane for holding the COG's feet to the fire and driving this through so hard. So in the context of the Sea Line extension project, those are some big shoes to fill. Well, hopefully the hard part is over, and thank you again to Zane.
Okay, Kevin Mitchell is next, and anybody else that'd like to speak on item P1 can speak to the council.
Oh, hello, council. Happy New Year. Good to see you all. So we started attending COG about a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit longer, when it became clear that South Bay needed some voices, some public voices in their midst. So we watched the conversation develop. It was very emotional initially. A lot of people started to realize sort of what was at stake here. And so there was both a big contingency that started to happen coming from Lawndale as well as our Redondo Beach residents. And fortunately, it's moved to a more thoughtful discussion about what is best for the South Bay in the long run. This isn't just about trains in our backyard. This is about how we can create a sort of commercial movement that can take advantage of our LAX, our SoFi stadiums, our amenities, and now our new social district that will happen at the Galleria. So having it down Hawthorne is, of course, an important step towards building a new economy in the South Bay. So I'm really happy that this council has, I think, seen that. Councilman Narenheim has mentioned this. This is a 100-year project, not a 20-year project or whatever. And so it needs the forethought of the council and the COG council as well to come through and see what's important here. Holly Mitchell and Wiggins, CEO Wiggins, both attended COG at different times to sort of take the temperature of the room, I think. And hopefully they heard our voices. I know there was a lot of emotion there at that time. So again, like Nikki said, we thank Zane for his strong advocacy here and leadership, and look forward to having a thoughtful outcome next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak to item P1 that's before us? Okay, anybody on Zoom?
There's no one on Zoom, and there are no e-comments submitted for this item.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
And I will read the title for you. Adopt by title only Resolution CC 2401-003, Resolution of the City Council of the City of Redondo Beach, California, amending Resolution Number CC 2308-075, appointing delegates and alternates as official representatives of the city to expire on June 30th, 2024.
Thank you. Okay, back to item N1, discussion and possible action for proposed changes to street sweeping hours along the southerly side of Diamond Street between Pacific Coast Highway and Del Amo Street. Mr. Saman and Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Actually, I am going to turn it over to Ryan because if I say my 2 sentences, I'm going to take away his whole presentation on it. But we are just returning to you from the December 19th council meeting when you continued this, expand the notification and reconsider other options. So with that.
So we have a slides to pull up. So good evening, Council, Mayor Pro Tem. This item was continued from the December 19th council meeting. The proposed change to the street sweeping on the south side, the Redondo Union side of Diamond Street. The current restriction is Thursdays from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And there was a lot of discussion, for different times to serve the needs of the schools, the students, and the local community as a whole. Originally, we had proposed 7 a.m. as a street sweeping time, but at the December 19th meeting, we heard feedback from the community, and so after that meeting, we expanded the notification area for the community to provide input, explored additional times with Athens Services, the street sweeping vendor, and we've come before you to propose the new time to be Mondays from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. That time was chosen because on Mondays, Redondo Union starts later, about 9:30. So the street sweeping time, wouldn't be 7 a.m. It would be a little bit later, so residents have a time to wake up. It's a 1-hour time frame now, reduced from 3 hours, and it's before the students arrive at school. So this slide here shows the notification area for the December 19th council meeting. About 150 feet away from Diamond Street was our buffer. And in this next slide is the expanded notification area. Over 300 residents that we sent mailers to for this meeting. And we did receive a blue folder item for this, some feedback from one resident. And so the staff recommendation is to change the street sweeping time to Mondays from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. And if that gets approved, we'll direct our crews to make the signage changes and inform Athens Services as well. So happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much for that outreach. I believe we have some cards here, so I'd like to propose that we hear from the public first, and then council can ask questions of staff or anyone else. So I have 4 cards here. First card is from Alex Sloan, and after Alex is Lynn Bailey. So Alex, if you would approach the podium.
Hi, Alex Sloan. I'm a resident who lives on Alberta Street in the northern part. I love living near the high school. A lot of people couldn't say that would be true, but for me, having the youth there near me is something I adore. And I enjoy seeing the students every day, except they're usually not there on Saturday or Sunday. The street sweeping issue ties into a whole bunch of issues, in my opinion. So I want to talk to those issues. And bracketing that, and most importantly, is student safety. And I think what happened recently at Carnelian and PCH is a strong reminder of how important it is to keep our kids safe. So the first issue that impacts my street is student drop-off. It's a very popular street to drop the students off. And I get this because I cared about my son when he was going to high school, and I wanted to make sure that he got to where he needed to be safely. Our street is the most narrow street from PCH to Prospect. It has a turn in it, and it has an arch in it. And there have been many times when the street is completely backed up for parents to safely drop their kids at that intersection, somewhat safely because the kids still have to cross the street. During our 32 years in Redondo, we've had at least 3 mirrors knocked off the side of our cars. And we've had one near miss where 2 pedestrians were nearly hit by a car that went out of control when leaving the school area. Safety issues. Since it's changed where the administration building is, there's really never been a good solid plan about how to drop your kid off safely. And you're saying, why does this all tie into street sweeping? Well, it does, because maybe some of the areas we're talking about would be good drop-off areas. So I just want you to think about that. And then we've got traffic. There's been a number of occasions on our street where the people leaving who've dropped off their kids in the morning and the people coming actually get gridlocked. And I personally have directed people to back up and let people through in order for the street to function. And that's obviously a problem. And there's a lot of other places, not even including street sweeping zones, where possibly a safer drop-off would exist. And that'll come to my final point, which is I think we need to study it a little bit more. I don't want to really stop necessarily what we're doing around street sweeping. It's just that there's a little bit bigger issue here than just opening up a section for parking. Parking's interesting where we live, and if I were a student, I'd want to park on our street. It's right there where you come in, and so we get a lot of students parking on the street. I actually have no problem with that.
Time?
It's just, time is at.
Motion to extend 1 minute.
Okay.
On favor? Aye. Okay.
Okay, so I'll just sum it up so I don't take any more of your time. I just would like to see Redondo Union folks, people on the north side, people on the south side of the school, and somebody here from the city, Public Works, take a look at the whole picture. We have a lot of parking by permit on some streets. We have, areas that are used or are what's the word? No left turn allowed off a barrel because the folks on that street don't like traffic. It just needs to be, I think, looked at in a way that's equitable for the whole neighborhood and for the kids. And so that's my say. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, Lynn Bailey is next, and after Lynn is Chloe Kaywood.
Hi. Okay, so last meeting, when I spoke, I left here feeling a little uncomfortable. It felt to me like this was sort of just getting shoved through without much thought to those of us who will be negatively impacted by this change. Hardly anybody, in my opinion, was notified about it. The reference to the school serving all of Redondo Beach and the request for an email to be sent to the families that attend the school looking for support, I felt was biased in terms of the who and the number of people who are being notified. Nobody's arguing that the school has a problem with parking. This isn't about how many are for or how many are against. It's not majority rules. It's about who's responsible for solving the problem, and it shouldn't be those of us in the neighborhood. It should be the school. I very much appreciate the council member who proposed questions that need answering, but there were some misleading statements made last time, such as Diamond isn't a residential street. There are at least 33 residential homes facing Diamond between Delamo and PCH. The idea that the change would keep the students and teachers from parking in the neighborhood is sorely inaccurate. I heard nothing that indicated what changes the school has made in order to improve their parking problem. The high school has an enormous campus. It's both the school and the school district's obligation to make the most efficient use of the school grounds to best meet the students' needs. So what effort has the school made to do that? On Thursday, January 4th, I counted 90 empty spots on the high school campus, including the spillover lot and the police station, between 8:35 in the morning and 9. The fact that there were at least, I didn't even count everywhere, so the fact that there were at least 90 empty spaces would indicate to me that their present system is perhaps flawed. My question is, where is the committee of people thinking critically about how to solve this problem at the high school besides just dumping it on us? because there are a lot of avenues the school could explore. Someone said the kids are leaving class to move their cars. Is it possible that they could adjust their bell schedule so the kids can do that during a snack break? Maybe priority is given to the wrong kids. It should be given to those who live the furthest away. And within that group, a reservation system could be implemented so that every last spot on every day is being utilized. So right now, the tennis courts are used by Parks and Rec. People park in the Beach Cities lot that's on campus to use those courts. Maybe on, I guess, Mondays now, they don't make those courts available, or at the very least, they reserve those spots for the students. There's 53 spots in that lot. So the maintenance guys park in there as well. Maybe they don't have to. They could utilize their space better. I don't know. These are all questions that I feel like need to be answered. Why is the school even leasing space to Beach Cities? Maybe that needs to be looked into. Maybe that's not the best use of their land. They got that putting green. I've never seen a kid on the putting green not one time. They could convert some areas, I think, that are not utilized. So I just really feel like the school needs to solve their problem instead of dumping it on the residents to be put out by having to get up. 8 o'clock is way better than 7, but it's still, I don't really think, an appropriate solution. I think the school needs to fix it, not us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Chloe Kaywood is next, and then after Chloe, Ashlyn Fisher.
Hello, City Council members. My name is Chloe Kaywood, and I am a junior at Redondo Union High School. I also serve as the student board member for RBUSD. I am here to show my support for moving the street sweeping time so students can have better access to parking around the school. There are nearly 3,000 students at our high school, nearly half of whom can drive. Unfortunately, the school does not have parking spots for every student who can drive, and student parking spills into the surrounding community. This leads to a very stressful and hectic search for parking in the morning. When you add in street sweeping, it's chaos. Many students have been late to class due to being unable to find a parking spot on time. Personally, I avoid driving to school on street sweeping days if I can, because I know it will stress me out if I cannot find a parking spot on time, and I do not want to get a ticket. By allowing this change to the street sweeping schedule, students will not have to worry about altering their morning commute on those days. This one change will create several parking spots for students. They can park without the stress of getting a ticket and attend their classes on time. Thank you for your time and consideration in regards to changing the street sweeping schedules around RUHS.
Thank you. Ashlyn Fisher. And after Ashlyn, anybody else would like to speak in front of the council?
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Ashlyn Fisher. I'm from District 4, and I'm a senior at Redondo Union High School. I'm here to discuss my school's lack of parking and how changing the street sweeping times would be very helpful for the students. I got my driver's license the summer before my junior year and was fortunate enough to be given a car. Throughout my entire junior year, I drove to school with the knowledge that I didn't have a parking spot at school. I had a zero-period class that started at 7:15 a.m., but still found myself circling the school trying to find a parking spot even when there was less competition for parking that early in the morning. Due to the lack of parking, I usually left my house 30 to 45 minutes before school started to make sure that I wouldn't be late. Also, since I live in North Redondo on the north side of Artesia, it takes me at least 15 minutes to get to school, and sometimes it's worse with traffic. This year, I wasn't issued a parking spot until a month into school, and sometimes it's worse with traffic. This year I lost my spot. This year I wasn't issued a parking lot until a month into school, and this year I don't have a zero-period class, so I got a real taste of how bad the traffic and lack of parking combo affected a majority of students. I was lucky enough to get off the waitlist for a parking spot mid-September, but many students still haven't gone off the waitlist, which has caused some dispute of jealousy throughout our campus due to receiving a parking spot being a random drawing, no matter if you have been driving for 1 year or for a month. As we all know, street sweeping makes this lack of parking situation 2 times worse due to most students still attending school from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Therefore, not being able to park on one side of the streets surrounding the school on Thursday and Fridays, with about 800 seniors and 800 juniors, the 174 parking spots that our school provides for students has proven to not be enough for our growing school, and there is no space for us to expand our parking lots. In this city, I would hope that a majority of citizens understand the importance of this, especially the ones that live around the school, because the teenagers of Redondo Beach need their support. We live in a constantly changing society where the youth is the future. Therefore, to ensure the betterment of our future leaders, us as a city should value the importance of youth education and make sure that it isn't affected by the fact that many students are prone to being late for their classes due to the lack of parking. Thank you.
Thank you. there anybody else who would like to speak to this item? Mr. Brady?
All right, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Lowenstein and City Council members. I'm Anthony Breedy, principal of Redondo Union High School, and thank you for having us tonight. Wasn't expecting the showing. As you're aware, Redondo Union High School has been central to our community since 1905. Fast forward to 2024, Redondo Union High School enrolls just under 3,000 students. And just so you know, we've had declining enrollment for the past 3 years. It employs 259 staff members. This does not include coaching staff and third-party partnerships, which exceeds more than 100 additional professionals. We understand the parking challenges that Redondo Union High School currently experiences. To counter these challenges, Redondo Union High School audited and restriped the main lot during the last resurfacing contract to maximize space and efficiency, and has added parking above the maintenance and operation building on the hillside. Within our 56 acres, there are 455 parking spaces, which is inclusive of the softball lot, the Vincent parking lot, One Seahawk Way in the main parking area, as previously mentioned, in addition to the auditorium and police annex. All of these parking locations are assigned and utilized Monday through Friday during our instructional hours. For clarity, these spots are not first come, first serve. So a spot that may seem available is assigned and utilized when the employee or student arrives for their time of employment or class session. There are approximately 265 staff parking spaces, with the remainder of spots being provided to our senior students. There are still 170 senior students on a wait list, which do not include any of our junior or sophomore students that drive to school. A shift to the street sweeping schedule on Diamond Street on the perimeter of Redondo Union High School would be welcomed and appreciated. This shift would allow for more than 50 additional spaces for our staff and students that would otherwise park into the nearby community streets during street sweeping day. Again, that impacts the Redondo Union High School side of Diamond Street only. I thank you for your consideration and continued partnership with Redondo Union.
You have a question for Mr. Breedy?
Mr. Principal, just a question. I realize that you're not a board member for the school district, so maybe this isn't necessarily for you, you can't answer it, but what is the school, it's clear that the parking is inadequate for the school, for the personnel there, the students there. What is a school district or school doing to increase the parking that's available for the students that it teaches?
Right, so as mentioned, we restriped and resurfaced in the last contract just to make sure that there is a more efficient use of the space on the upper lot, which is the largest lot, in addition to providing more spaces above our maintenance and operations. Other things that are not really related to actual physical parking spots is that we work hand in hand with Beach City Transit. So we do have a lot of opportunities for students to jump on the bus in concessions, so they're not waiting in long lines for the bus. We're working with BCT. It's a very welcome partnership to get students in and out, in addition to adding more bike racks for our students. And we've done an audit with that too, just over the last few years as e-bikes have become more popular. So we actually have about 300 students or more riding their bicycles to school on any given day.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Isabella Mazza. I'm a senior at Redondo Union High School, and I do apologize. I do not have a speech. I'm just feel compelled to speak. I am a student who did not receive a parking spot this year, and although it stinks not to get a parking spot, it's just kind of the luck of the draw. I do have a 0 period, which means I must get to school by 7:15, and I live in North Redondo, so it is a little bit more difficult to get to school. So I always leave my house by 6:45. However, on Thursdays and Fridays, I must leave by 6:30 to adequately have time to find a parking spot. However, the majority of the time, that is just not
the amount of allotted time that I need to find a parking spot due to the fact that a lot of people haven't left for work yet. So parking is already limited. As well, we have so many students that do not have parking spots that it just leads to more and more chaos, especially in the mornings. I've been late. I already have many issues with my other teachers about being late to my zero period class just due to the lack of spaces during zero period as well as on Mondays. So as a student at Redondo, I would really appreciate the movement of our street sweeping times on 2 Mondays before school even begins, because with a 3-hour window, it just does not allow for enough students to find parking on campus. Thank you.
When you say before school begins, is the 8 a.m. time before school begins, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
On Monday it is.
On Monday.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, Wayne Craig. I wanted to comment, I think this 8 o'clock time is much better than what was proposed last time. However, I think that there still might be some other considerations the school might be examining. And also, I have some concerns as during the last meeting on the 19th, we were talking about community outreach, how many neighbors were actually spoken to. And if I heard this correctly tonight, we sent out notifications to 300 people and we got 1 response. Is that 0.0033%? It's not very good. Also, as elected officials, I think you have to always have the, before you make any decision, my grandfather used to tell me this, if you get elected in office, residents take precedent. Obviously, residents that are impacted should be listened to. And I think if we're only getting 1 out of 300 responses, that's not very good. I'm wondering if there's some other options or alternatives that might be up. St. James, which is down the street. Maybe we could use some of their parking, rent some stuff out from the school district could do that. There's some other churches that are nearby as well too. Has that been looked at? We pay for the churches to exist because they don't pay taxes, so maybe that would be something to look into. Again, other options might be available. And after I commented this last time, one pundit out there was trying to claim that actually restricting residents' access to parking somehow increased their home value. I don't know of any study that's ever shown that I've ever seen in at least 20-some years in real estate. Obviously, restricting parking for residents is something that can't be taken very lightly. I appreciate the concerns that the students have, but having gone through a similar problem, I know I'm looking like an old guy here right now, but I used to drive my car to school. It was nice when I got a car. I bought my dad's old hand-me-down, I fixed it, drove it to school. Gas was expensive then. We carpooled. That's how we were able to get parking. So maybe that's something a school district could look into too. Our kids we've got hundreds and hundreds of kids. Each one of them have their own car. Each of them driving to school. Maybe we can carpool. Again, these are different ideas. I don't know if I've heard a lot of these things come up here, but I am really concerned about 1 person out of 300 responding, because that implies to me that maybe a lot of people didn't get notification. Thank you.
Anybody else would like to speak to this item?
Filled out a card, but never actually turned it in. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. My name is Dan Elder. I'm on the school board. And I really just wanted to come here tonight to thank all of our residents who did show up, meaning our students, because the vast majority of our students are residents here. And I realize not a lot of them live in the neighborhood, otherwise they wouldn't have to worry about parking. But when you do look at things like if you're in District 5, BCT takes an hour to get there and then an hour to get home, depending on if you can catch an express bus, how many buses are available. So this is a significant challenge that many of our students face. And so I appreciate their engagement during finals week when they've got a lot going on. So to show up does show that this is an important matter for them. And I also wanted to thank council for working with the school district on this, because this is something that our joint working group was very effective at, looking for pragmatic solutions of, hey, parking in the community and for these residents is being negatively impacted by students, and us saying, great, let's, we've got the same problem, let's shift the street sweeping time so that students, instead of having to park in the neighborhood, can park right next to the school. So I do appreciate all the effort that went into finding a pragmatic solution like this. Of course, fully support it, but I wanted to say thank you again for your time and for working with all of us together, because we are all, again, one Redondo, and trying to get everyone, we're going to make everyone happy, but trying to find a solution to minimize the impacts is what we're all here for. So thank you again for your time, and thank you to our students.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience or on Zoom like to speak to this item?
We do not have anyone on Zoom, and we did have a few e-comments that were submitted for this item. There were a total of 3, and 2 of them were in support.
Okay, thank you. Anybody on the council would like to speak to this item?
Yeah, we'll go first.
Councilmember Kalincherovich.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone showing up, voicing your concerns. I want to thank Councilman Lowenstein and staff for coming up with another alternative that might be more palatable for the community, that also helps our students. And I think a really important part of this is this change is adding more parking for students and residents. We are shrinking the time from 3 hours to 1 hour. So it's actually more available for everyone. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Councilmember Narenheim.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So, I take it the school district doesn't have to do an environmental impact report for its growth from what you've grown from. A couple of comments that were made out to me that struck me, actually, I should say, excuse me, is one speaker talked about half the kids drive for a growing school. And this is going to affect essentially 1 out of 5 school days. So roughly speaking, 1/5, 20%. One of the things that was said to me, declining enrollment over the course of the last 3 years, except in 2001, 2022 was the highest enrollment ever at 3,219. And if you look over the course of the last 20 years, the enrollment in 2003, 2004, from what I can find, was 2,624, with a low in 2009-10 at 2,378. So that's an 18.5% increase since the 2003-2004, and a 30% increase since the lowest of the low in 2009 and 10. I haven't heard the school district talking about increasing the amount of parking spots equivalent, because when you have higher enrollment, you also have to have more teachers. If you have more teachers, you need more parking. And one of the comments I see here is the school district to work more with either the school or the city and explore other options. For instance, since this is only 1 day a week for a few hours in the morning, I'm not sure, have we looked at the usage of the police department parking lot? A lot of that is empty. Maybe in the morning of when the street sweeping is done, the staff uses that, because I know a lot of people have said, or I've heard people say, neighbors say that the staff parking lots aren't full all the time.
There we go. We have looked at that. Our needs are pretty well at capacity at the site in terms of what we lease from the district. We have that shared lease agreement there. Most of the parking there behind the auditorium is still designated for school use. So that should be largely full during school hours and prior to school hours. Our capacity is at pretty tight now. We have expanded our storage area with the detectives' activities. We have more on-site staff at 200 North PCH with the growth of code enforcement division and our special operations bureau. So we're pretty well utilizing our spaces, and I believe the district is generally doing the same. I haven't observed vacancy there often. So that if there's a specific time, we can target it, but I'm not aware of that.
Okay. Can we bring this president, high school president up? Mr. Brady?
Yeah.
Principal? Yeah, come on up. Quick question. It's changing these hours and impacting the residents. Residents want to see that we've done everything we possibly can do. I'm seeing huge growth in numbers over the last 20 years, 18% to 30% from the low. In the last 5 years, we've gone up 5% or so. What other options to increase the parking have you guys done in the last 10, 15 years?
Yeah, so again, just based on looking at what we've had, we adopted solar. So there was different bond measures that the school district ventured into, which was Measure C, which was more the physical space that had to do with the parking area above the gyms, looking at efficiently making sure that cars can effectively and efficiently be utilized within that parking. So it was restriped to maximize that space. But again, looking at the parking above the maintenance and operations, which it was just a hill, it now was flattened to create more spaces there as well. And that's where there's some solar panels there. Measure Q was part of a different bond. It was past Measure C, and that was used so that you see the solar structures there that were above those parking locations. So those were the two larger parking areas.
Okay, and how many years ago was Measure C, Measure Q?
2008 for Measure C, Measure Q was 2012.
Okay, so since 2008, 2012, we've increased by a good 500 kids, which is in line with, let's see here, that's 2003, 2004 numbers. So it's a good 18.5% increase. I mean, did you increase parking by at least 20%?
That I can't tell you offhand, no.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Baji?
Sure, I'd like to echo what Councilmember Kalajevic said. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Lowenstein, for conducting more outreach and helping come up with a solution of an 8 a.m. Street sweeping for only 1 hour. And Councilmember Kalajevic makes a good point that it's only for 1 hour of street sweeping, so you're getting more access to parking. I do agree with Councilmember Nierenheim in the concern raised by Ms. Sloan, which is that there is no comprehensive plan for circulation and parking in this area, where the city is collaborating with the school district to ensure that future generations of students there have adequate parking. What I'm hearing about is a lot of surface lots, but with a school that big, it seems like we need parking garages. And I appreciate that kids are taking other forms of transportation, Beach City's transit and bikes. So even if we've come up with a solution for now, and I'd support what the staff is recommending here, the 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. street sweeping on Mondays, I think there's a problem that needs to be addressed long-term. And I wonder, ask Mr. City Manager, Mr. Saman, has there ever been any sort of collaboration on circulation and parking in the area? Because whether or not the school district and the high school carries its burden in fulfilling the parking needs of the students, if they don't do it, the city's going to do it and the residents are going to do it. So how are we kind of getting ahead of this issue? We're working with the school district to preserve the quality of life for residents there.
Yeah, I think the first part of your question is, to my knowledge, we haven't done a formal traffic circulation study specific to the impact on neighborhoods in and around the high school. It might be a worthwhile effort for us to actually embark on that, bring somebody in to help us with that. But to my knowledge, in the last 20 years, we have not done that, at least with any specificity. Perhaps as part of broader citywide circulation studies, general plan updates, et cetera, there's been some analysis, but I don't think it's been specific to visitors of the high school. We have had collaborative conversations over the years about the impact that the various activities on the campus have, particularly on Vincent. We've talked about, and we've encouraged the district to build on-site parking where possible. I think they did, with the bonds, make some concessions in that regard. They did add capacity at that time. Was it sufficient to handle the current student load? Not sure that's the case. There's clearly still a push and pull problem here that we're addressing. This conversation was an outgrowth of collaboration with the subcommittee, as mentioned, to try to find a better solution, a more efficient use of time. And so we'll continue to have those conversations. We've discussed for football games, this council's aware of this, periodic lessening of the restrictions on Vincent. That, of course, had problems in the neighborhood, and our constituents asked that we not do that with any real frequency in the future. So we've pulled back on that a little bit. We've been encouraging them to use the library and get word out to visitors that the library, the public library parking garage is available to everybody in the community. That can be used and should be used, I think, during football games for those who can walk up to campus with a little bit more ease. So we've tried to encourage that, but that's kind of a long-winded way of saying without a formal traffic circulation study, I think that's what would be required and a parking analysis.
All right. And I'd hope that if that ever is undertaken, if there's ever direction from council to undertake circulation and traffic parking study, that the school district contributes for the cost of that, because I know those can be very expensive. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll speak to this item. There's two people in this room that were part of the school district in 2008. Maybe Mr. Brady was here. Dr. Wesley is in the back, our superintendent. And myself, I was on the school board for 8 years, starting in 2005. I was the president of the school board for 2 years. I was very involved with the planning for Measure C and, to a lesser degree, Measure Q. I will tell you that I did bring up the idea of parking deck in 2007, 2006, when we were planning the bond, and there was not enough funding. Parking decks are very expensive, and I could see this happening. I could not see how popular our school would become. We're kind of the victim of our own success here, folks. A lot of people that used to go to private schools now go to our school, and that's a great thing. But it also creates a series of problems, as we see. Crowded classrooms, parking issues, egress and ingress into the school. So we never did go to that route because of the cost. It was a $100 million, $95 million bond with matching funds, and it ended up being about $145 million. It was an expensive bond, and we're still paying it off. So I think, hindsight's always 20/20 when this comes to it. I do feel for the neighbors for a lot of reasons. One, I used to live across from an elementary school, and I know what it's like. It's tough. But I knew going in that was going to be the case. And that's not an excuse. It is what it is. It's one of the great things that Alex said about living near the school district. The high school is living near the high school. It's also a challenge, right? So I feel for that. I also want everybody to remember that I represent this area, I'm District 2. I get a lot of emails from people, not just on the surrounding streets of Gertruda and Alberta and Irina, but all the way up to Juanita, Lucia, and even Maria, saying, I can't park on my street. There is spillover on Thursday. It's pretty bad. And so, and in addition, we've been enforcing the no parking in the alleyways, so people cannot park in front of their garages in the alleyway. So it makes it incredibly difficult. So this problem actually has a silver lining in that if we do go with this, and I'm leaning that way in terms of 8 a.m. on street sweeping on Monday, that it will help alleviate some of the problems around the surrounding areas, because it is a big issue. I would say 8 a.m. is much better than 7 a.m. For those of us who are not early morning risers. And the fact that the high school schedule allows for a 9:25 start is a good thing when it comes to this. I would echo what Mr. Craig said. I think the notices were sent out January 9th. It's now the 16th. That's not a lot of time. And so I think it came up really quickly with the holidays and everything else. I think it was a challenge to get people noticed. But I do think that, a lot of people, the people that are most impacted are the people along Diamond and the first few houses in from each of the streets. And I really feel for you. It's a challenge. But I would say, leaning this way, I think the school district does need to do some work here. And I also think the city needs to do some work here. I'm looking at El Redondo, just south of the high school. It's a very large street. We should consider angle-in parking, because that would fit a lot more cars there. And it is a very large street, very wide street. So it could accommodate angle-in parking, would fit a lot more cars there. And I think we should look at that as an option on some of these streets, because we need to get as many cars in as possible, whether it's residents or students. And I feel for the students that wake up at 5:30 or 6, they've got schoolwork, plus they have to get to school, or they're taking Beach Cities Transit. So this is a community, we all work together. We sometimes share the pain, and sometimes we share the glory. And I'm hoping that we do, residents should always come first. But again, almost everybody who goes to the high school is a resident. and their families pay taxes for our streets and for our school facilities, we also need to accommodate them. I'm hoping that 8 a.m. is a better option than 7, and that at the end of the day, this improves everything in terms of kids getting to school on time, not having to leave school, residents being able to find parking. And the other thing that we didn't really talk about is it's Monday morning. While there are events every day at the high school, Sunday night has fewer events, to my knowledge, than any other night. So hopefully people can find parking in the evening before Monday so they don't have to move their car. So, my thought on this is I think it's a good option. It's a good compromise. And compromises, nobody ever gets everything they want. But I think this is a good option for folks. And hopefully it's not too much of an inconvenience. If it's a big problem, we'll look at it in 6 months and go, maybe we need to reevaluate this. But in the meantime, I'm hoping as a council, we look at ways to expand parking along the street, whether it's angled-in parking or other things for us to do, because those are some very wide streets that can maybe accommodate some of that. So that's what I would say. Anybody else have anything? Councilmember Narenheim.
Yeah, I agree with Councilmember Baji regarding studies and seeing what the growth rate is. As far as I know, I don't think the high school has a cap on the growth, does it? It can grow bigger and bigger and bigger.
That's probably a better question for district officials. I think the answer, we've seen growth, significant growth.
I will say this.
Former school member.
Yes, okay, I will say this. I thought when I started in 2005, it was about 2,350 at the high school, something like that. Maybe 2,500. Dr. Wesley was an assistant principal at the time. She could probably speak to that. But it has gone up.
I'm asking for a cap. Is there a cap?
There is no cap,
Right.
except when you're talking about classroom sizes. There's
Right,
only
that's-
so many classrooms. Nationwide and in California specifically, enrollment is declining. It is just a trend.
What we have here in front of us, though, is a notice went out last week on the 9th. Someone said that there was a singular response, but the notice here says that there was a meeting here tonight. So even if there was a response from that to let us know what they thought, if it was mailed on January 9th, the earliest they would get it is January 10th, maybe the 11th. This agenda did not come out till last week on the 11th. So any responses that would have come in wouldn't have been able to be included in part of this agenda here. So there's a big problem there. I really want to make sure, I'm not going to approve this because the number one reason here is, it says here, school officials have expressed concerns that current sweeping restrictions are an inconveniences for campus visitors and students during the middle of the day, and incentivize students and other communities parking available in the neighborhoods. I haven't heard any conversation yet about what happens if we get suddenly a massive influx of complaints and problems from the residents. What do we do then? Do we go back to the old way? I mean, that hasn't been hashed out yet. When it comes to the students and having inconvenience, that's a part of life. I got to school every single day. When I got my driver's license, I didn't want to, but no one got me up. It was tough. It was not easy. But I think we gotta be we represent the community. And I love Councilmember Lowen's, Mayor Pro Tem's idea here as well regarding restriping. But I think the school district needs to be a part of that solution and pay for these studies and restriping and the cost, because what's happening now, just like in private commercial development, residential and commercial development, is the parking and traffic is being shoved off onto the streets. Now becomes a city-managed problem where there is currently enough parking for the residents in the neighborhood. Now that is being taken advantage of by an overuse on individual parcels. So the same way that the project on Catalina was denied a few months ago, based partly in parking and traffic, I'm not going to change this because I don't see real emphatical information the school district has really truly change things on their side to increase 20% amount of parking incentives, education. I'm seeing a problem and a solution given up by the city, of which there is only so many limited resources. So, yeah, that's where I stand on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Barron.
Well, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I think what's being proposed is a good option, a good compromise, and I support it. I think he made a lot of good points about all residents, and I think of all residents, and I think about the residents from District 5 as well, and in particular. And so I'm in favor of this. So I will make a motion to adopt these proposed changes to street sweeping along the southerly side of Diamond Street between PCH and Del Amo Street as proposed by staff.
I'll second that.
Okay. Councilmember Obaji, did you want to say?
No, I was just going to echo that. We got it. These students have shown up. They want to just get to school. They want to study, do their work. They don't want to spend hours looking for parking. They don't have to wake up at the crack of dawn to get to school and find a parking spot. So, yeah, I support getting them to school and getting them a place to park.
And again, I will say, if there are issues, we're running into a lot of issues with residents, we're going to have to evaluate this again. But I think it's incumbent upon Councilmember Kalajarovich and I are on the subcommittee along with Mr. Witzansky with the school district. I think we'll put that on the next agenda in terms of talking about things that we can do together. It's spill over into the area, but again, everybody is a member of this community. Nearly everybody that lives in this area generally attends the high school. So there's a motion on the floor and a second. Does anybody else like to speak to this item before we vote?
And we have no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay. I'm going to do a roll call vote on the item. There is a motion and a second on the floor. Councilmember Narenheim.
No.
Councilmember Karajarovich.
Yes.
Councilmember Obaji.
Yes.
Councilmember Barrett.
Yes.
And I myself, 401. Thank you. Okay, on to item N2, discussion and possible action regarding potential modification of the Redondo Beach Municipal Code to prohibit the use of multi-use plastic bags. Mr. Wingy and Mr. Saman.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And yes, I will be introducing our city engineer, Andy Wingy, to give you this. This is a strategic plan item that we are following up with to present to the council on the discussion of the multi-use plastic bags.
Thank you, Ted. Good evening, council members and Mayor Pro Tem. For the record, Andy Wingy, city engineer, presenting on behalf of the city's engineering division in the Department of Public Works. And this item is regarding the potential modification of the city's municipal code to prohibit the use of certain plastic bags. This item is really a continuation of the city's efforts to be a leader in environmental stewardship in our distinctive coastal location. In January 2020 and also in April 2021, the city adopted ordinances to prohibit the use of specific polystyrene products, single-use plastics, and balloons. In June 2023, as part of the strategic plan development, staff was directed to look into whether the city can extend the statewide ban on single-use plastic bags to the heavier multi-use plastic bags that's the state law encouraged as a replacement. City ordinance was fairly comprehensive regarding polystyrene and single-use plastic products such as takeout food containers, meat trays, plastic utensils, and straws. But the city ordinance did not address single-use plastic bag bans because the statewide law, which in its language claims to, quote, occupy the whole field of regulation, unquote, regarding single-use recyclable and reusable bags. So in other words, any jurisdiction except for the state was not allowed to create bans or additional bans on those bags. This slide shows a summary of the prohibitions that were included in the city's ordinances regarding both polystyrene and single-use plastics. The state law under SB 270 bans the use of single-use carry-out bags for grocery stores and convenience stores. It also introduced a requirement to charge for recyclable paper bags and reusable plastic bags, the multi-use bags. SB 270 limits the applicability of this of these bags to certain stores defined in the statute and summarized as full-line retail grocery stores with gross annual sales of $2 million, having at least 10,000 square feet of retail space, and convenience food stores with a license to sell alcohol. Because of the, quote, full state occupation of the regulatory field for bags at these stores, the city is limited to regulating bag use only at other types of retail establishments, such as clothing stores, retail stores, hardware, restaurants, et cetera. There is some criticism of the statewide single-use plastic bag ban, and especially replacement with the, quote, reusable, recyclable bag scheme. As a result, there are some statewide efforts to expand the plastic bag use, notably by Senator Ben Allen. However, how and when these will come to fruition is still not certain. Therefore, staff is seeking direction from the council. First, whether to expand the plastic ban prohibition in ways that do not encroach on the state's occupied legal territory. And second, if so, to provide targeted business and production products for the ban so that staff can begin to develop ordinance language for future consideration. So that concludes my prepared remarks, and be happy to try and answer questions.
Okay, thank you very much for the report. Would anybody like to comment on this in the public first? Foremost.
We do not have anyone on Zoom, and there are no e-comments for this item.
Okay, Councilmember Obaji.
Sure. I think SB 70 is noble in what it was trying to do, but it's a stupid state law. And it's stupid because they took these flimsy, thin plastic bags that we had in the grocery store and said, you can't have them anymore, and you can't have paper bags, or maybe you could have paper bags, but all the stores, Target, Sprouts, grocery outlet in North Redondo District 4 have moved to these really heavy, thick plastic bags that are reusable. Well, okay, what can you reuse it for? You can carry more groceries in it, but if you order groceries to be picked up or for delivery, you're gonna get more new reusable bags. What can you use it for? Put it in your bathroom trash can, scoop your kitty litter into it. Eventually it gets tossed out, and it's a super thick plastic that probably takes even longer to biodegrade, and you don't have the option to ask for paper bags. Whereas you go to Manhattan Beach Target, you got paper bags right there. They'll give you your carry-out stuff in paper bags. And so it's unfortunate that we can't legislate this, and that was the goal actually when I requested this follow-up, was we had a presentation by the police department about their enforcement of the plastic bag ban, the single-use plastic bag ban. And so I asked for this follow-up. I appreciate it. My goal would be to monitor the area of the law, see if there's an opportunity to enact more environmentally conscious bag laws in Redondo Beach that allow these vendors to use recycled paper bags that biodegrade more quickly and take no action.
Okay, Councilmember Kaljurevich.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I was reading about, there's a Senate Bill 54 out that is intended to put the onus on producers who are responsible, it's their responsibility to manage single-use plastics. And so the packaging and everything is supposed to be 100% recyclable or compostable by 2032. So this is something that the state is tackling, and I think we could monitor it, and that might help us out in your goal.
And if I may, that's what I was going to refer to. SB 54 was actually passed into law in 2022, and at the end of December this past month, they came out with the draft guidelines for it. So it may be that the intent is to put all the onus on the people that are producing them. So it may be that the problem will be solved by itself.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments? I would agree with you. I think the best thing we can do right now is monitor the situation. And but the law of unintended consequences means it was what they wanted to happen actually did not happen. It made it worse. But I will say that in general, I do see fewer plastic bags floating around everywhere. I will say that, but and concern about it still making it into our waterways. But you know, we've gone a long way in terms, maybe not always compared to some of our neighboring cities, but compared to a lot of cities, we've gone a long way with the elimination of single-use utensils, plastic bags. I think that was a big step in being environmentally conscious, and I think people have adjusted to it. So I think that's a great thing to happen. Councilmember Barrett.
I just want to say I agree with what's been said and the proposed approach being contemplated.
Okay, Councilmember Narenheim.
Yeah, I agree. Law of unintended consequences, there are more plastic bags being sold today in California than before the ban went in place. There's more plastic being produced for bags
Seriously.
than before. It's not a joke. It's, dead serious. So let's live and learn. Let's learn from what's been done and see if we have something else. And I hope that that turtle is chomping on corn made sustainably plastic. They make it in the Midwest. That's it. Thank you.
And I don't think the increase in bags has anything to do with the increase in students.
Are you sure about that?
I'm pretty sure about that.
Interesting factoid, the microplastics that we keep hearing about, that primarily comes from clothing.
Is that right?
Plastics from clothing.
Yeah, wow, that's interesting. Okay, so.
Receive and file, and thank staff for the.
Yeah, we're not taking action, so, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now on to city manager items.
Nothing to report this evening. I look forward to the continued roadshow at our upcoming district meetings. So
Okay.
I'll see you all at your various neighborhood meeting here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're now into mayor and council referrals to staff. Councilmember Narenheim.
Let's see here. I had something, but I can't look it up right now. I'm sure it's fine. Veterans Park Library, when is that? I think I asked you last time. When is that coming back?
Yeah, we met on the proposal today. It'll be back in February.
Okay. And last week's gonna be a big week, right? A lot of stuff on there. Fireworks are gonna be on there.
Yeah, depending on our continued conversations with prospective vendors, we're running into comparable problems with one vendor we were hopeful that would be interested and are out soliciting alternatives. We will have an update for you, if not next week, I think the first week in February. It's been a challenge, both with availability and willingness to participate in the new environmental world.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Kaljurevich.
I do have one referral for staff to explore and Public Works and Sustainability Commission to consider a request to expand the red curb on the southwest corner of Ripley and Flagler. I have a diagram I can email you as well.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Councilmember Rabaji.
No referrals, just a question. You know when we'll have the residential street rehabilitation discussion?
We are in the finishing stages, I believe, of the 3-year pavement management study. I've been told that the draft report, I think, is with us. We're evaluating that. I think we will have the results of that report to you here in the next 2 months, I think by March. And then that's when you'll make selections on future phases of residential rehab. You've already given us direction on the plans and specifications for what we're working on
This year.
the upcoming project. So that, it's possible that the 2 items will run simultaneously. I believe that's our intention, but I'm not 100% certain that you'll get them together.
Thanks, that's it.
Okay, Councilmember Barrett.
None.
The only thing I'd say, and I mentioned to you really briefly, Mike, is I'd like us to tackle faded signs, street signs, not just street signs crossing streets, but no parking, et cetera. There's quite a few in town, and having signs up where people can't read them is an issue. So I was hoping that we could put some emphasis on that. I don't think it needs to be brought before the council. It's just something that needs to be done, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we are now going to recess into closed session. Can I get a motion and a second to recess to closed session?
Second. So moved.
And it sounds like items R1 and R11, correct? Is what
That's,
continuing with?
I believe that is correct.
Yes.
I believe
And who made the motion to that?
I did.
Narenheim and Kaljurevich.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, we are in closed session again. Thank you.
Let me read the title for those, please. So R1 is Conference with Legal Counsel and Labor Negotiator for the closed session authorized by Government Code Section 54957.6, Agency Negotiator The city manager and the director of human resources. The employee organizations include Redondo Beach Professional and Supervisory Association. And the other item was R11, conference with legal counsel, public employee personnel matter evaluation. Closed session is authorized by attorney-client privilege, Government Code Section 54957B, titled City Manager.
Hey, thank you so much. They still have to offer day passes. Okay. All right, we are back in open session. Do we have anything to report from closed session?
No additional reportable action.
Okay, then can I get a motion and a second to adjourn to January 23?
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, we are closed for business right now.